Today's review is of a lovely, simple break barrel air rifle. Now this is a Hatsan Striker 1000S and this is in the black grey coloration because it's a black polymer stock with grey synthetic inlets, which are the more rubberized feel to give you a bit more grip and tactile perception on the rifle. Now for many of us, regardless of whatever rifles we shoot now, rimfires, centerfires, air rifles, anything, who isn't familiar with a simple break barrel air rifle in 177 or 22 with iron sights on it that was the first thing we ever shot? And you know, things like having a scope to add were an absolute dream, and you know, the endless tins of pellets we'd get through, and perhaps when we got a new tin of pellets we'd be very excited. That would be another whole day of plinking. So what's different now to how we might have started 20 or 30 years ago? Well, yes, we have a lot of more European made and Asian made air rifles that weren't available to us back then. And the quality has gone up and the accessibility is fantastic. So this Striker is available in different stock types, but this one is the polymer. It's available in 177, 22 or 25, and it's got a 420mm, which is a 16.5-inch barrel. Now this is a break barrel. Now I can't shoot it in here, but you'll have seen it in the video of me shooting it. Essentially it breaks, there's a detent here which is a heavy spring which clicks into position, the pellet goes in the back of the barrel, hopefully when you're holding the barrel back, and then you just click it shut and then you're ready to shoot. There is nothing more pure and simple about shooting, going out with your air rifle and a tin of pellets and hopefully some targets of some description and a day of fun ahead of you. Now this rifle has got an adjustable rear sight with green fibre optic dots and a hooded foresight with a red dot. Those line up for when you're shooting. You've got full adjustability for windage and elevation, which is windage left and right here, and elevation is controlled on the top there. And essentially, if you want the pellets to go up on the target, you move the sight up here. If you want the pellets to go right on the target, you move the sight to the right here, and that effectively twists which way the gun is pointing. Now the barrel is steel, everything's blued, and when we move back to the receiver we can see these two dovetails here, and if you want to add a rifle scope, that is a conventional dovetail for an air rifle scope, and you also get a steel arrestor block there just in case you need it, because contrary to what a lot of people think, spring piston air rifles actually give quite a complicated and actually quite fierce recoil cycle. It's not physically painful, but the kind of movement backwards and forwards within that mechanism is slightly different to a regular centerfire or rimfire rifle, which people associate with heavy recoil. That complexity of the recoil pattern makes a spring piston air rifle a little bit more challenging to shoot, but I do say to so many people, if you can shoot a spring piston air rifle really well, you can pretty much shoot any rifle really well. Now the safety catch here works in both ways. When you cock this, it actually automatically pops out, comes backwards and puts the rifle on safe, and then you just press it forwards for fire. But at any time you can operate it manually to make sure you've got the mechanism locked and it's a safe rifle to use. Now of course when you're using the rifle, here's the trigger. The trigger is a two-stage unit, so there's a short take-up which comes to a stop, and then you squeeze on the stop and it breaks at 1877 grams, which is 66 ounces. The mechanism is consistent, so you do get used to shooting and controlling the rifle, and although it sounds a little bit heavier than some match triggers, it is actually adjustable, and an instruction manual is supplied which tells you how to adjust it, and you can see there's access through the slots in the bottom of the trigger guard here. The polymer panels on the sides do give great grip, and the stock itself is fully ambidextrous because you can see the cheek piece on both sides, so you can shoot it right-handed or left-handed, and it is equally versatile from either. There is no preference whatsoever. Looking towards the back of the stock, you've got a soft rubber recoil pad. There's no physical force really to absorb, but what that gives you is good grip in your shoulder. And of course, on the iron sights with that small cheek piece there, you get really good alignment behind those iron sights to make sure your shots are on target every time. The stock has a stipple finish to minimise any reflection from it, gives it a nice tactile feel, but those grippy panels there do make sure that when you've got hold of it, it is really well gripped. The alignment on the sight is actually really good because you've got this lovely low cheek piece and the iron sights which perform perfectly. And you can find the hooded foresight blends really well into the notched rear sight to make sure you've got good alignment every time. And you can see those three dots, the red on the foresight, the green on the rear sight, and make sure you are aligning everything perfectly to get the best shots on target. Overall length is 1110mm, which is 43 3/4 inches. Overall weight is 2,936 grams, which is 6 pounds 8 ounces. Length of pull on the stock, which is the distance from the trigger blade to the recoil pad, is actually quite generous at 370mm, which is 14.5 inches. And the price of this rifle is $113.99, which makes it a great entry-level point for any shooter who wants to get into air rifle shooting safely and comfortably. The fact you can have it in any one of the three main calibers, 177, 22 or 25, allows you to adapt it to your exact needs. And given that the rifle in 22 caliber is projecting an 18.13 grain pellet at 517 feet per second, means that you've got 11.7 foot-pounds, which is totally capable of some small pest control as well as plinking if you keep your ranges reasonable. I've really enjoyed shooting the rifle. It's just fun to use. It's the pure simplicity that takes you back to the very earliest days of shooting where you've got just your rifle and just a tin of pellets. I was using these Hatsan Flash domed pellets at 18.13 grains and they worked very well through the rifle. At 20 meters, these are the groups I was getting on paper. I was quite happy with that, but I will tell you this, that when you're shooting with open sights, it's a real challenge and you have to make sure you're getting your alignment absolutely perfect. For someone like me who shoots all sorts of rifles all the time, I'm reminded of the core basics of shooting a rifle really well and the actual delight you get when you shoot a group as small as that with open sights at 20 meters with a spring piston air rifle. There's a great sense of achievement even for someone who shoots at any distance with any rifle. One of the joys of shooting air rifles is the fact you can try all sorts of different pellet types. At 18.13 grains in 2.2, these are perhaps a little bit heavy for a spring piston, but they did shoot well. And the fact is you can experiment with all the different types of pellets you want, as you will intrinsically get through thousands throughout the career of this rifle. Well, I hope you've enjoyed that review. Thank you to SportsmanGunCentre for sending this Hatsan air rifle. Please like, subscribe, comment, and don't forget to click the notification bell, because as you can see, it's not just about large caliber long range rifles on my channel. We get air rifles too, because shooting will not have a future unless we get the current next generation shooting air rifles like these. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.